I never imagined I'd end up pressing criminal charges against a neighbor, but at exactly 7:43 a.m. on a Tuesday, coffee in hand, I stepped outside to find my driveway transformed into what looked like a crime scene. Except instead of blood, it was neon pink paint. It was everywhere, splattered across the surface, dripping into the grass, pooled in thick puddles. And smack in the center, spray painted in jagged, angry letters. Not in my HOA neighborhood. Across the street stood Patricia Summers, in her silk robe and pearls, proudly holding an empty paint can like a trophy. "I fixed your little design flaw," she called out with a triumphant grin. What she didn't realize was that my security cameras had captured everything. Her sneaking onto my property at dawn, dragging paint buckets across the lawn, and muttering to herself while destroying my driveway. What started as a petty act of revenge would end with her in a courtroom. Let me back up. My name is Daniel Foster. I'm 36, and about 6 months ago, I moved into Pine Valley Estates, drawn by the tree-lined streets and quiet atmosphere. What I hadn't fully appreciated was the presence of a notoriously strict HOA, complete with a 78-page rulebook and self-appointed enforcers. One of them was Patricia Summers, HOA board president, neighborhood watchdog, and professional busybody. She once cited a child for drawing hopscotch on the sidewalk. She had a collection of seasonal wreaths that rotated weekly, and she did not like deviations from the HOA standards. So, when I resurfaced my driveway with a modern charcoal gray epoxy finish, fully permitted and with proper notice sent to the HOA, she lost her mind. 3 days after the work was done, I got a letter. Violation of HOA Code 7.3 subsection B, all driveways must remain in approved concrete mist gray. Please restore or face a daily $50 fine. I replied politely, attached the permit, and highlighted the section of the bylaws that allowed color variations with advance notice, which I had done via certified mail. I thought that was the end of it. It was not. Over the next week, she began leaving paint swatches in my mailbox, each one labeled approved in red Sharpie. Then came the barrage of emails, 17 in a single week to the HOA board, all copied to me. One had the subject line, "The epoxy agenda, threatening our property values." She even went door to door, warning neighbors that I was bringing urban parking lot vibes into the community. Still, I tried to be patient. At the next HOA meeting, Patricia presented a dramatic slideshow titled "Dark Driveways, a Psychological Hazard for Suburban Families." I calmly explained that charcoal gray was not black and that it was featured in upscale home magazines. Patricia's response? Luxury magazines? What's next? Food trucks? She began parking her car at the end of my driveway during her morning walks, blocking me in. She organized a beautification committee, stood outside and loudly criticized my helipad-style concrete. Every week, a new petty tactic. Then came the morning, everything changed. At 5:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. My security system had picked up motion. I opened the app and saw Patricia on the live feed, dressed in overalls, dragging 2 large paint buckets toward my driveway. I watched, stunned, as she opened the first bucket and began pouring the neon pink paint. She worked carefully, spreading it over every inch, muttering, "Let's see how you like passion pink." When she finished, she spray painted the words across the middle and shouted, "Take that, modern aesthetics," and she walked home like nothing happened. I immediately called 911. When the officers arrived, I showed them the footage. One of them watched it twice, shook his head, and said, "Wow, he really hates your driveway." They went over to Patricia's house. Through her front window, I saw her trying to look surprised, but then, to everyone's shock, she marched across the street and said, "I want to file a complaint. He did this to himself for attention." She made the mistake of filing a false police report in front of 2 officers who had just watched her commit the crime on video. She was arrested right there, barefoot in her robe. Contractor later told me the epoxy would need to be fully stripped and redone. $6,400 worth of damage. I filed criminal charges, felony vandalism, trespassing, and making a false report. I also filed a civil suit for damages and legal fees. The HOA called an emergency meeting. Patricia was suspended pending her case. For the first time in years, neighbors began speaking up, sharing stories of her micromanagement and power trips. Someone even said she used a ruler to measure their lawn decor. Then, the video leaked. A local news channel ran the story. HOA president caught in paint rampage. It went viral. TikTok users dubbed her #acrylic Karen and #the pink paint bandit. Memes exploded across the internet. My driveway became a symbol of HOA oppression, and the neighborhood began to change. Tom, 2 houses down, finally painted his shutters navy blue. The Johnsons put up multicolored string lights. Someone even installed a small water fountain. After 9 p.m., another neighbor painted their own driveway lavender and added a sign that read, "In solidarity with Daniel." Patricia's court date arrived 6 weeks later. She wore a stiff blazer and tried to cry her way through it. The lawyer blamed stress. The judge wasn't buying it. She said, "Miss Summers, you vandalized your neighbor's property because you didn't like the color. Then you lied to law enforcement. That's not neighborhood pride, that's criminal entitlement." Patricia was sentenced to 90 days in jail, 3 years probation, and had to pay all damages and legal fees. Oh, and 100 hours of community service cleaning graffiti. The irony was delicious. As they led her away, she sobbed, "I was only trying to protect property values." I pulled a small paintbrush from my jacket pocket and held it up. "You missed a spot."